So let me ask you this, just to sum it up, and this is your whole career, your whole life. What do you tell people, right? People listening to this, and this is a real education, I have to say it. I'm not asking questions because I'm just listening. Real education. What do you tell people? How do you maintain a healthy lifestyle? What should you watch in your foods?
Yeah.
This is so, I've seen this, you know what, I'm telling you, it triggered me when I saw that red dye, or whatever you want to call it, that was banned 30 years ago in the cosmetics, and they're feeding it to our kids just to make a Fruit Loops look a little bit more appetizing to a kid, but it's poison.
Way worse than
It's basically poison. So how do we educate people and say, you got to look at everything you eat, you got to read the labels, you got to watch everything, you got to get to the gym. How do you sum it up?
Make it simpler. And here's how we do it, because people just don't have the bandwidth for it. So here's what I first want them to do is this is low-hanging fruit. Get a walking pad for a few $100 on Amazon.
A walking pad.
Yep, here's why. And it should have like a little desk thing on it.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna answer your emails there, you're gonna take your phone calls there. It's gonna be uncomfortable, you're not gonna like it for a little while. Get the fuck over it. I tried to not swear on your show, and I think I've dropped an F-bomb every.
It's okay.
I'm so sorry. Get over it. And
you do it in context. It's okay.
Sorry about that. I tried really hard. So, and failed. Generally my discipline is solid, but not with swearing. I've never
actually enjoying it.
I've tried to break the habit so many times. Okay. Standing burns 1.5 times the calories of sitting. Sitting is the new smoking. It's terrible for your circulation, your bones, your muscles, everything. Everything sitting sucks. So even if we just have you standing, and even if you do it like in fits and starts, because it's going to be uncomfortable at first, and then we get you shuffling along, right? And we set a step goal. We start at 5,000, and we end up hoping.
I have to laugh because my wife, my daughters, all I hear, I did this many steps today. I said, oh my God, I can never count my steps.
You don't put your phone in your pocket, get a little device on and you should have a goal. 5,000 is not.
How many steps should I do? I'm going to be 74.
10,000.
10,000 steps a day?
But if you have that walking pad, you won't even notice it.
Really?
You'll get to 3,000 without even thinking. If you watch your shows, if you watch your podcasts, if you do your work, if you answer your emails, if you do your stuff, shuffling along, you'll like that. This way, I don't have to worry about time. I don't have to worry about money. I don't have to worry about temperature. It's like we get on there, shuffle along. We start at 5,000. Ultimately, we arrive at 7,500. 10,000 is the gold standard, right? Okay. Then, when it comes to food, these pharmaceuticals are manipulating your satiety hormones. But let me explain to you that your body has evolved perfectly over 250,000 years. When we eat real food, your body will release satiety hormones naturally. Satiety hormones like leptin, it's like, I can never remember this one, PPYY, I'm getting this totally wrong, but it's like peptide something, YY, whatever the fuck. I just did it again, sorry. After all these years, you think I could remember it, but there's numerous satiety hormones like GLP-1, like leptin, and so on and so forth. When you eat protein, when you eat fat, when you eat fiber.
You said real food. What are the real foods?
Okay, so real foods are going to release these hormones naturally and help you regulate appetite. But when you eat fake food, like a Dorito or a soda, there's no protein, there's no fat, there's no fiber. It spikes insulin, it crashes insulin. It releases releases hunger hormones, not satiety hormones. And it's triggering your brain, the pleasure center of your brain, to eat more. This is what I mean when I say your physiology is literally being hacked by the shit in the food. So you want to avoid ultra processed foods. And here's what that means. If you and I went to the supermarket and we bought, I have no investment in this brand, but let's say Dave's Killer Bread. Is it processed? Yeah, it's processed. It's in a bag, it's grains are all blended up. Is it perfect? Is it going to cure cancer? No. But it's organic. We've cut out the 10,000 chemicals that shouldn't be in there, aren't going to be in there now. It does have whole grains. It does have some nuts and seeds. It's processed bread. It's not ultra processed bread. So something like Wonder Bread that's made from genetically engineered seeds that are sprayed with a toxic soup of pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, that are then grabbed by the big food companies and bleached and have stabilizers and have thickeners and have appetite increase, all of these different chemicals, so that it stays on the shelf longer and it triggers your body to eat more. None of that stuff is in the Dave's Killer Bread. So it's going to be a matter of taking about, no one's gonna wanna hear this, but I'm gonna show you how this goes. Taking about $100 more and spending it on your groceries that week. However, if you look at your life and where you're going to that Starbucks at $5 or $6 a day, over the course of a 7-day week, there's $42 for you right there. I bet you're getting your kids something. I bet you're getting the coworker something. You're getting your spouse something. Stop going to Starbucks. There's my $100. And by the way, I just cut out all those calories. I'm for simple things people can do.
I have a question for all my friends and followers. Have you tried my wine yet? You know, in the last 2 years, we've made tremendous progress with Franzese wine, and it's really all thanks to your support, and obviously because people are finding out we have a great wine at a great price. In 2025, we aim to become a national brand, and I want all of you to be a part of it. Every bottle you buy, every story you share builds more than a brand. It fuels a movement. The story of our wine is one of people having second chances and of lives being transformed. That's the truth. So go to my website, franzesewine.com, and get your bottle today. Salud, my friends. Let me ask you,
Yeah.
Organic food that we see,
It matters.
are they really
It
organic?
does matter. Is it perfect?
Is it legit?
It is far more legit. In other words, could somebody be like, well, you know, but there's that's made from bugs. Like there's a food coloring made from beetles. So what? You're not gonna know any better. You certainly didn't know when you ate it. It's way better for you than red number 3 and red number 40. It matters. When you buy organic, is it perfect? No. Are there different regulations to a certain extent? They buy these little things slip through the crack. But you're catching a lot of it. You're catching a lot of it. If there's no GMOs, which genetically engineered, that stuff's not allowed. All these chemicals, that's not allowed. So you're inherently removing all of that. Now, does it cost more? Yes, it costs more. So whole foods ideally would be food that looks like it's supposed to look. In other words, when you look at a Cheeto, what is that? Like, it doesn't have a mother. It didn't grow out of the ground. That's not food.
Right.
But if I gave you, let's say, a corn tortilla, I mean, we could kind of figure it out, right? And if it was organic, it's like, well, if it didn't come from genetically engineered corn, because it's organic, if it wasn't sprayed with all kinds of poisons, because it's organic, so it's not allowed to have those chemical poisons that are linked to Agent Orange on it, if it didn't have all of the chemicals in it to improve palatability and shelf life, if it actually molded after a week on your countertop, right, or in your fridge,
Yes.
that's a hell of a lot better. And it's like, okay, corn, we ground it up, we roll it, it's recognizable, still processed, but recognizable. Organic on processed foods is going to be the thing you look for. When it comes to fruits and vegetables, if you can't afford organic, you follow a simple rule. You follow the clean 15 and you avoid the dirty dozen. You could Google it, but the bottom line is the clean 15 are going to be things that have natural insecticides like broccoli, which are actually good for you. Don't fall for that influencer baloney online that vegetables are bad. That is such a lie. It is just one of the greatest lies ever told. It's totally not true. Anti-nutrients in vegetables. And there are a host of brilliant doctors and people with PhDs in nutrition science that can debunk all of that for you. Like Dr. William Lee, Dr. Elaine Norton. That is a lie from an Instagram doctor. Don't fall for it. Anyway.
Vegetables are good.
Vegetables are great.
Yeah.
If you can't afford organic, avoid the dirty dozen. So these are thin-skinned leafy greens, berries, things that require a ton of pesticides. If they're organic, then of course they cost more because of what it takes to grow them and not have them destroyed by pests and fungus and so on and so forth. Plus, I'm going off piste again, but the problem is that those foods are the ones that should be subsidized by our tax dollars, not the genetically engineered corn and soy and wheat, but hundreds of millions go towards growing those because industry has corrupted the laws that were put in place initially for good reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And now you see what's happened. So anyway, you want to eat whole foods, protein, right? You don't want bologna. That's not whole food. Like that kind of processed hot dogs. Like what is that? But a chicken breast, a steak, a piece of fish. Yes, of course I want it to be organic because we're removing hormones and antibiotics and the beef and the dye and the salmon that's farmed. Yes, I want it. If we can't have it, it's still better than whatever the hell you're getting at Chick-fil-A, without question. So you want to eat.
And Chick-fil-A is one of the better ones, I think.
Oh, they're all garbage, man.
No.
They're all chemicals and crap. And if you look at like, they're cooking this stuff in seed oils and it's not the seed oil. So when you look at seed oil and you're like, well, sunflower, what's bad about that? But if you Google a video on YouTube of how they process the seed oils, they're like bleached and deodorant. That's the problem. Seed oils that you'll find in organic food are processed differently. It's a catch. It's a safety net. I get that it's more expensive. Where can you cut out elsewhere? That is the best way of easily removing chemicals. If you can't afford it, you buy from the Clean 15 off the vegetable list. You do a little bit less meat or chicken or a different kind of fish, and you can go to Monterey Bay Aquarium and see which seafood is safer and has less crap in it and buy off of that list.
Like the Clean 15, can you Google that?
Google it in 2 seconds.
I want my
And it'll
viewers
be
to do it.
things that have a rind, a thick skin, that naturally make more insecticide like broccoli. And the reason I brought up the anti-nutrients is because in things like broccoli is that you'll see some charlatan try to tell you that, oh, it has isothiocyanates and it's poison. It's a long explanation from a person with a PhD in nutrition science, and there are many great people, like I said, Lane Norton, Joseph Munoz. Dr. Lee is an MD, but he's also a cancer researcher, and they'll debunk all of this for you in seconds. But it's just a bullshit marketing play. It's not true.
Let me ask you, I saw it and I bought an ad. It's called Clean Boss. And you supposedly spray it on your fruit and vegetables and it takes off this.
The film, the
Filming it.
waxy stuff.
You believe in that? Or is it nonsense?
I mean, it's more than that, though. Like, it might take the wax off the top, but it's
not
not
what's
going to
inside.
remove.
Got it.
It's not going to remove that stuff. The other part, in the lowest hanging fruit, is you got to eat less. That is harder for people because of the way the food is designed. But if you go out to eat, make it a habit, don't drink calories ever. You get water, coffee, tea. And you can have a couple alcoholic beverages a week, but when you do, it's wine, it's a beer, it's a tequila on the rocks, and give yourself a limit. Because it does inhibit fat metabolism, and it does have empty calories in it ultimately. So limit it and work it into an overall calorie allowance. But if you cut out, you can make milk part of a meal, in other words, like smoothies, for example. But outside of that, if you cut out the Arizona iced tea and the sodas and the frappuccinos, right off the bat, you're eliminating that 100 calories plus and then some that put you 20 pounds overweight over the course of 3 years. Simple ways to cut calories that you don't need to think about. Every time you go out to eat, ask them to put half of the food in a to-go container before the food even hits the table. This way, you're reducing intake and you can eat everything on the plate for sure. Go ahead. If you really want to do that, if you don't want to change anything, just have them put half of it in a to-go container and take it home for later. That'll, by the way, save you money. It saves you money to eat less. A walking pad, I get my steps in. Packaging up half your food, I'm reducing your calories. You don't have to think about it, either of these things. By drinking water, coffee, tea, unsweetened, I've cut tons of calories and tons of chemicals and tons of sugar, and we don't think about it. Common sense, whole foods. Ideally, chemical-wise, organic. And you cut those those dollars from other areas and reapply them. And ultimately, the number one cause of bankruptcy in our country is a health-related issue. I would love to sit here and drill down on, oh, we want polyunsaturated fats and olive oil and this, sure, but nobody can read every label. And when it says, this and this and that, and you can't pronounce it, people can't. It's a lot. So just these little simple things
Very practical.
to
What you
reduce
said.
the
Yeah.
food, reduce the chemical load, and get them moving more will go so far. And then we can add in strength training and get an app and go to the gym and do this and do that. But if we could just start here, the changes over the course of 6 months, I've taken 50 pounds off of people that way. Like
Wow.
that. It's 6 months.